Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. It is markets in the morning. Let's go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer, bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Welcome to Markets in the Morning. Today is Monday, January 22nd, 2024. That's a lot of 20s in there. Let's try again. Welcome to Markets in the Morning. Today is Monday, January 22nd, 2024. This is Markets in the Morning, where we take a look at the price action at the cryptocurrency market, including the Bitcoin price chart, which you have right in front of us, with Bitcoin at moving quick right here, $40,500 as we get ready for the stock market to open up here in the next 3 minutes. Of course, we peek over there at the altcoin market. We take a look at stocks. We take a look at the DXY. We take a look at precious metals. And then we take a peek over there at any type of financial news that is going on today and any type of cryptocurrency news that is going on this morning, especially as we kick off our week. While the cryptocurrency market is a little bit in the red over here, looks like the stock market is going to open up positive. The Dow Jones and the NASDAQ and the S&P and the NDXT, the NASDAQ 100 technology sector, all looking for a positive opening today. At least I assume the NDXT is, considering that the NASDAQ is going to be up. When the NDXT does open, the NASDAQ 100 technology sector, when the stock market does open, I do believe that is going to open into an all-time high. Where are you? I'll find you. You are right here. There you go. You can see it almost closed at an all-time high last week, pretty much closed right there. I think it's probably going to open into an all-time high this morning when we do end up getting it. Bitcoin still struggling after hitting its 618 retracement there a couple of weeks ago on the day of the ETF launch. Prices remained stable throughout the weekend, but as this morning kicked off overnight, we saw things really happen. I wake up pretty early in the morning. I wake up somewhere between 3:45 in the morning and sometimes, if I'm sleeping in, 5:30. But I did wake up pretty early this morning, and I did get to catch somewhat of this move happening down here in this morning's move. Prices are still holding the lows down in here, but this was really what the weekend was. And then finally, as the morning kicks off, of course, stocks open, markets open, things get moving. We see Bitcoin moving along with the market, still continuing to hold the support level that it hit last Friday. But what's going to happen from here? It's the $1,000,000 question. It's a difficult read on what a distribution looks like. We'll talk a lot about different kinds of things in here. The one thing, as we looked at this last week, this is a technical supportive level. We'll see if it holds, but you could look back even throughout history to see how much this level has actually reacted in here. This was when we were running up in the beginning part of January of 2021. Bitcoin broke out into its all-time high. This is the area it struggled at. This is where Elon Musk and Tesla announced that they've added Bitcoin to the balance sheet. It breaks out, then it breaks back down below. It's unable to get through here 2 separate times. Finally, it does break out. This is the back test level, and then we go off, and then this is where we break back down below it, and then everything falls apart. Luna collapses, all that different stuff from this particular level. So there has been a historical reference for this level in order for it to be able to just kind of continue bouncing around in here, but there's still just no signs yet, at least, that this thing's ready to bounce. You can look at the strength indicators, right? We were leading with bearish divergences heading into the ETF launches. There's our ETF launch that takes place right in, was it right there? It was right here. Wednesday and Thursday, right? These are the ETF launches happening right in here. You can see the big bearish divergences on both sides, on the top side and the bottoms, happening in here once we got there. The thing that Bitcoin does have going for it, at least, is it's like if it can turn this thing back up at some point today. We know that with relative strength index, this is an oscillator of strength in the market. 40 tends to be your holding level in a bullish move. So when prices are moving to the upside, you tend to find supports at 40, just like when you're in a bear. You tend to find resistances up near the 60 level. So you tend to find support down here near the 40. You tend to find resistance down up here near the 60. So it's technically in that region right there as it's at the support level. We'll see if it can start to emerge. We can move down to smaller time frames to try to look for any type of divergence that's emerging in here. We definitely don't see it on the daily. You don't see it on the 12-hour. Not really on the 8, on the 4. 2, There's just no real divergence showing up in here for Bitcoin just yet. So hopefully we can find some supports to show up in here for Bitcoin and things just stabilize. Fortunately, though, with that stock market, the stock market has been showing strength in there. There you go. We just opened up. The NASDAQ opened up 108 points. The Dow Jones opens up 126 and the S&P opens up 17. So you can see that the NASDAQ is a mere 3 percentage points away. It's actually probably going to be even less at this point until it does get to the 4.236 extension. It's a mere 2.28% away. For those who don't know the math on how big of a climb this has been over 2,000%. 2% away for the NASDAQ. Looking over here at the Dow Jones opens up again into new highs. Let's take a look at how close the Dow Jones is from the 4.236 extension. It is about 3% away. So we're getting really close in here with these indexes. The $1 million question is are those levels going to be the big fat rejections that show up in the market? Will there be a surprise? Will there be a black swan? Nobody sees anything on the horizons right now, but sometimes events show up just the way they are. So we're going to be, of course, watching this like a dang hawk as we get closer to there. Things to kind of keep in mind, like things that we've paid attention to, like with the NDXT and how these things do happen in here, right? We can have a longer distribution happen in here. I know we obviously have the Great Depression fractal shown on here. In no way am I predicting that this is how these things are going to play out. This is used as a reference point to show you confluence between the two events, that in the 1920s, this is the exact same size of a run that we had. And it just so happens to be that this exact sized run happens to be a 4.236 extension of our current run that we're in right now. What we have noticed, of course, has been just the distribution structures that have happened in here and the price action that has happened in here. And many times we do kind of poke above the highs, which there you go. You can see it with the NDXT. There you go. It is into all-time highs right now for the NDXT. And then these things can pull back, go up one more time, and then be over. One way to kind of look at it too is like over here with Bitcoin, it hits the 4.236 extension on the daily time frame. It does not close above it. It pulls back and then it goes and hits it a second time and then things turned over. So it was a distribution event that happened up in here. That's going to be kind of the thing that we're watching for with Bitcoin. It's a lot why I also show a lot of this stuff happening in here, that it seems unlikely that this thing would just fall apart on itself really quick. I personally think JP Morgan is going to want to distribute a little bit longer with their Bitcoin holdings in there. And while we just haven't seen the altcoin market do any type of catch-up play as of yet. So I still think it's going to hang out up here a little bit longer and probably tease that it's going to go into big breakouts. But it is always funny when we kind of take it off of log scale. You kind of get the reference to say, a lot of euphoria happening back at retracement levels when really that's all it has been so far. So right now we're watching like a hawk, of course, to see, what is the structure going to look like coming out of here, and then also following along with these stock indexes at the exact same time. So there you go with Bitcoin. It's still holding. It hasn't broken. XRP on the daily chart was able to hold there on Friday above 54.2 cents. Held it throughout the weekend. Then when we saw those prices move a couple of hours ago over there in crypto, we see XRP dipping below in here. We'll see if it's able to hold itself by the time the day comes to a close. You look over there at the market cap. The market cap is still sitting on top of it, but the actual price chart has fallen slightly below. Question is now, of course, can we continue to hold that? Can we find some support off this level and send this thing off going, and Bitcoin find support and just range around in here? Everybody gets bored of Bitcoin. I was listening to Twitter Spaces on Friday and Saturday. I saw Anthony Pompliano on there. I saw all these guys talking on it on there now. Even the big firm believers do believe that the ETFs are going to kill the volatility of Bitcoin. So those dreams of 10x, 20x, 50x on Bitcoin. Even the biggest believers believe, even if this thing doubles from right here, that would be an insanely big accomplishment for Bitcoin at this point, with Wall Street now being involved. So will we see the degening of crypto return and people say, you know what, I'm not here for this thing to double. I could go buy a stock and wait a couple of years for something to double. Will we see the return of excitement for crypto? But it does seem the narrative is starting to shift for Bitcoin, that the ETFs are not going to send it catapulting to the moon, but if anything, actually kind of reduce the volatility for Bitcoin moving forward. So we are starting to see a narrative shift over there for Bitcoin at this point. But as for the altcoin market, still we're just waddling back and forth here in this range. XRP, again, that's the big thing to see. Will it be able to regain that after holding it multiple times and holding it throughout the weekend? Again, there's a little bit of a mix there because you do have the market cap still continuing to hold it. But this is as good a spot as any for a support to start showing up, and it's a good a spot as any for a support to show up in Bitcoin. So we'll keep our eyes throughout today to see if things can recover. And well, with the stock market producing excitement out there, we'll see, man. We'll see if this is actually just kind of a little bit of a tease, as we do see like events like this happening in the market today. If that can transpire over to the cryptocurrency market as well. As we know, these events tend to be good for Bitcoin and good for crypto, as we tend to be tied to this market. So seeing that is a good sign happening in there. Moving back on over here, the US dollar currency index still just waddling in 103s in here, back above that fib level. Gold and silver have taken a hit this morning. Let's see how they're doing. Gold, silver's back above $22. I did see it at $21.99 at one point. Gold down $6, down to $2,022. And that seems to be how let's look at stocks, see how stocks are doing at the opening now. Leader of the morning is Roblox, ARK, and Coinbase. Look at that, Coinbase up today, while you have Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market in the red, which is a bit interesting to see how the end of this day does play out when you have events like this happening in the tech sector of the stock market. But we haven't seen that transpire over there into crypto yet. But also at the same time, when we see things like Coinbase being one of the leaders this morning, so we'll see how today ends up playing out. But looking over at Bitcoin, I think that gives us our story: 40,700. Altcoin market struggling this morning, but waiting to see now that we have these new highs for every index. Let's take a look over at, I believe S&P even slipped into a new high here. There you go. The S&P has now even poked itself slightly up into a new high. So these are all typically exciting things for crypto. So we'll see how the day ends up going in here. But usually these are exciting things. But we're just going to have to wait in recognizing that, like, this big event. I think a lot of people just don't have this stuff on their radar and understanding the trickery involved with this market right now, with Bitcoin at a retrace and these indexes up in here. Our brains don't comprehend that, there could be trickery in regards to Bitcoin going to a new all-time high, which everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people do expect, rather than just having a retracement happening in here, and that we are in a very interesting time in this market. And the big challenge happening in here at the exact same time is, we know when we hit this thing in the 1920s, it was lights out afterwards. However, structurally, we haven't set up for an event to be like a lights out event. We've structurally set up for it to be longer distribution in here. So we'll be keeping our eyes on all of those things. But there you go. Today, a pretty big milestone is the NDXT sets a brand new all-time high. And the Dow Jones continues creeping closer and closer to that 4.236, along with the NASDAQ. Heading over here to rate cuts and rate hikes and rate pauses. It looks like this thing was struggling this morning. If you were trying to look at this morning and you're having problems, at least I was. 99.95% probability that we will be having a pause again, as we have our meeting next Wednesday. Of course, we always live stream these, so you guys, we do 2 live streams that day. I do typical markets in the morning, and then we end up doing the Jerome Powell hard swallow live stream watch. And that will take place, it's usually around lunchtime here. So wherever, I don't know. We'll lock in the time. I think it's usually around like 1:30 or 2:30 Eastern time on Wednesday. So just kind of keep your Wednesday prepared for that for next week. Looking over at, I think that covers everything when it comes to charts, right? You got the dollar staying pretty much still. You got metals pulling back a little bit. You got Bitcoin still sitting on supports here. It has not gone lower than it did last week. And we have the stock indexes and new all-time highs, only 2 to 3 percentage points away from their 4.236 extensions, with the NDXT breaking out in an all-time high for the first time since November of 2021. What does that put us at? 2 years and 2 months since we've seen, since it took us to get back up here for the NDXT and get through and get cleared. So there you go. Pause looking like for the probability. The next meeting, even the odds have started shifting closer and closer to a pause being the case in the March meeting. Enough time for those things to switch around. We'll see what Jerome Powell says. We'll see what the inflation readings are when we get the CPI come out for January or February. All right, moving on over to news. Stock futures climb as Wall Street looks for S&P 500 to build on fresh all-time high. Macy's rejects ARK House $5.8 billion bid, citing financial concerns. Ron DeSantis drops out of the 2024 presidential race and endorses Donald Trump. Home Depot and Lowe's are downgraded. Goldman upgrades this payment stock. Terraform Labs files for bankruptcy protection in the U.S. Hong Kong stocks are at a 36% discount, shows true depth of the China gloom. BlackRock to sell its Shanghai office towers at a 30% discount. Gloom over China assets is spreading beyond battered stocks. Stocks rally as Wall Street set to build up on record. Markets wrap. It's all over. Never. Trumpers brace for New Hampshire shutout. SEC probes. B. Riley deals with client tied to failed fund. Wall Street banks want to lure back loan deals lost to private credit. Wall Street banks want to lure back loan deals lost to private credit. I don't know about that. Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan say buy the dip after the Treasury rout. Israel's Netanyahu rejects Hamas's terms for hostages. Okay. I do notice that we get a lot more like international uncertainty stuff when it comes to Bloomberg. They focus way more on that. All right, looking over here at crypto news. Now we're done with financial news. USGAO performed zero analysis for crypto report on invading sanctions. You know, Senator Warren, Elizabeth Warren, of course, perpetuating that continued stuff on crypto's bad. This is probably funded by her, maybe even written by her. Are Bitcoin longs waiting for sub 40K? 5 things to know in Bitcoin this week. Do Kwon's Terraform Labs filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. 2 presidential long shots are left waving the crypto flag, plus a wild card. Dogecoin hits a 7-day high as X Payments account gains 100,000 followers in a day. Yes, X has created a new account called X Payments, and so everybody's speculating on what the X Payments will be. Hot stories. X launches dedicated payment account and crypto community speculates. Like literally what I said. All right. Bitcoin price recovers from 40.3K lows with Bitcoin volatility decimated. It was remarkable to watch that throughout the weekend. I'm sure many of you paid attention here. Stock markets closed. Bitcoin stays within a 0.6% range for the whole weekend. 1%. Okay. Stays within a 1% range throughout the whole weekend. Waiting for markets to open back up. Here we go. Early morning hours this morning. I mean, it's not. And then there we go. Then we finally start moving again. There we go. Bitcoin spot ETFs make a splash, but can their assets under management surpass gold ETFs? One thing to be mindful of, right? So it like makes really good headlines and it gets clicks and all that stuff when people are like, BlackRock has $2 billion worth of BlackRock. This is the exact language that I keep seeing over and over again. BlackRock holds $2 billion worth of Bitcoin, whatever the number is, $1 billion, $2 billion. That's what they keep saying. BlackRock now holds it. It's like this clickbait title and headline that I keep seeing all over X to be like, if BlackRock, implying like if BlackRock is bullish, why aren't you? But that's not what's happening. BlackRock does not own these Bitcoins. They're holding them, but that's merely because people are coming in and buying up the ETF. If people are buying the ETF, then BlackRock has to hold the Bitcoin for the people buying the ETF. You could have 1 million retail investors run to BlackRock and buy the ETF. BlackRock has to make sure they have the Bitcoin to back it all up. And it doesn't mean BlackRock's holding it. It just means that they're in possession of it, but they're not investors in it. It's the 1 million retail investors that are the investors in it. So be careful with that narrative because it constantly gets shilled as like bullish news in there. And it just literally means nothing. It just means that a bunch of people are buying the ETF. And the reason that BlackRock has it is because all these people are buying the ETF. But as you can clearly see, it has literally no impact on what has happened with price, right? If BlackRock's loading up on it, why has price moved down? And it's probably because JP Morgan bought the bottom and, they're the, we won't go there. Okay. Moving on. I think that's it, right? Bitcoin ETFs amassed 95,000 Bitcoin in 6 days, approaching 4 billion assets under management. Treasury discloses 66,000 users are affected by a phishing attack. These hardware wallets, man. Terraform Labs declares bankruptcy in Delaware. Dogecoin fluky bullish bets rise on X payments speculation. Doge has a tendency to surge on payments-related developments at any Elon Musk-owned companies such as X or Tesla. Fluky named the Musk stocks moves as a beta bet. I'm going to speculate that Doge is not what the payment stuff is. If you've ever tried to use Doge, if you've ever tried to send Doge, it takes a long time. It's not feasible as a payment. And Elon Musk even talks about that being a problem with Bitcoin in itself with the amount of time that it takes. I'm really going to speculate on my end that X payments has nothing to do with Doge in itself. And I know it's real fun in the XRP community because it has the letter X. Everybody's like XRP, XRP. Well, I really doubt he named Twitter X for XRP, right? But could it be crypto related? Like maybe send any type of crypto, maybe, right? Something like a BitPay, right? But it's their own version of it located within Twitter, right? I mean, that within X. I think that's more possible than focusing on any single asset. So there you go. That's your news. Bitcoin 40,500, XRP 52.5. Where's Ethereum? Ethereum 2361. Still just shuffling along. Seems like it would be a really weird place for Ethereum to top out at. I just really, really doubt it. It would be a super odd place to see it. I could see this more being a bigger sign of strength phase happening in here than anything else. It'd be just absolutely bizarre to have it top out right there. So waiting for some type of support to come in for Bitcoin as the NDXT sets new all-time highs and as the Dow and the NASDAQ both march continuously and euphoria headlines up towards the 4.236. Otherwise today, keeping an eye out and waiting, see if Bitcoin can find any kind of support in here, but still it just seems to be struggling. We're not seeing any signs of it in any of the indicators as of yet. My thoughts on it, my best guess on, like where we are. I know we keep showing this thing, and it's possible it does come in something like that. But, I just think of it in a manner of something like this, right? This is kind of like an initial sell-off happening in here, initial profit taking happening in here. It just hits the fan really quickly. We end up getting some type of low that shows up in here. It's kind of where we're at right now, right? And then kind of watching the next moves after that for some type of bouncing in here. Even with me thinking, turning myself into the enemy on Twitter, right? Not only that, I had to spend a year and a half being the enemy saying we'd go back to retracements. But then when we hit the retracements, I'm like, okay, that's it. You turn yourself into the enemy again. Even in my cases, it's not like, bam, right? It's like, typically it distributes through here. Typically it spends time working throughout here. Just a straight line doomtown is not your most common. It's just not. So I would think it probably does. It does recover in here. We just don't have any signs of it yet. I think if we started seeing like some type of recovery bounce happening out of here, and then we could see like relative strength start to break from bear ranges, then we can kind of be like, okay, cool. That like gives us some hope and some confirmations that we have at least found some temporary supports as of right now. Now let's look to the rest of the market. But as of yet, we still just don't have them over there in Bitcoin. So still just a waiting game over here. But okay, There you go. New highs in the United States stock market in all indexes and over there in the NDXT. Bitcoin still trying to find some supports in here. DXY, flat. Metals, a little bit of a struggle, more so in silver than in gold. No huge news out there, except that it seems like pauses. The market is kind of bracing for pauses to keep raging on. But pauses have historically not been bad for markets, and we've gone through that many, many times. It's when those cuts do begin. That's when things start getting really scary. Market's anticipating the pausing just kind of keeps on going. And, well, as long as the pausing keeps on going, then that actually is not a horrible thing. So from a time perspective and how long things could last. Otherwise, pretty dry news day out there outside of Terraform Labs filing for bankruptcy. But in the news, it seems to be a pretty tame morning as we start. Biggest thing is all indexes, stock indexes, new all-time highs. Hopefully we can get some of that to translate on over here into the cryptocurrency market. But on that note, that is Markets of the Morning. And that is 25 minutes of rambling. We'll go ahead and dive on into the chat. And then we'll go from there. A guy with 3 first names says, "Let's go. It's a Monday, y'all." Brother, thank you very much, man. John Trade says, "I subbed your Substack and I bought your course for crypto like status, like S&T. How do I predict the top if there is no market cap chart or history?" Right. So that's why, like, okay, I'm assuming here's what he's talking about. He's trying to look for a market cap chart on here, and there isn't one. That is why CoinTrader Pro, right? So this is free. There's no account to create here. None of that stuff in here. You can just go into these, go ahead and type in S&T. And there's your market cap, and that'll go back and give you all your historical stuff. Right. So that's why this website is great, because with TradingView, which you have to understand, you're right. TradingView, it does not have the market caps for everything, and when you're looking at assets like this, for example, with Bitstamp, we can take this data for Bitcoin all the way back here to August of 2011. But if I go to Coinbase in here, I only get to go back to December of 2014. I don't get historical price action prior to that. So when you're using CoinTrader Pro, you're actually getting to see what it was like on CoinMarketCap. So it's pulling CoinMarketCap's API, and it's just taking what all the registered information is from all exchanges dating way back. So we don't have to rely just on what Bitstamp has. We don't have to rely just on what Coinbase is saying. We get the data that goes way back, and it does have the market caps for everything, unlike TradingView, which doesn't have it for all of them. So definitely use CoinTrader Pro. When you can't find something. That's what I always do. Mr. J says, "What do you think of the PayPal chart?" It's not a chart that I live and breathe in. Obviously, this is one that somebody asked about. When would somebody have asked about this? They would have asked about it probably back here, waiting for 7. So that was probably, I would say that's probably the bottom of PayPal is probably in. Probably in. Wouldn't that be something? Elon Musk's payments is actually teaming up with PayPal. James V says, you say Bitcoin may not see a new all-time high. Do you mean ever? No, not forever. Not forever. Right. So it just, for a lot of people, it just depends on how much they want to accept reality, right? Like, this is all data. Like, the things we talk about are data-driven ideas. this is where Bitcoin was created, right? This is where it was created. This is a 4.236 extension of of the entire .com bubble, right? We're this close. If it rejects, right? If this rejects and this changes direction, if that happens, what will happen to Bitcoin when it was only around in this environment, right? That's the only environment it's been around. What will happen to Bitcoin in that environment? Now, you can come up with your own data. You can come up with your own theories and believe in all the narratives that are promoted to you by influencers and on Twitter to get you to buy. But the data backs it up that it has only existed during the greatest bull run of all time. It didn't even exist prior to the great financial crisis. It was created in the depths of the great financial crisis. And we've gone through this with the Dow Jones Industrial Average. We've shown it with everything. We've shown it with the NDXT, the overlays of the confluences between all of those. If those turn around, what's going to happen to Bitcoin, right? So then you have to say to yourself, well, if this turns around, will it ever turn back up ever again? Probably. And will Bitcoin turn back up with it? Probably, right? Will better technologies than Bitcoin come along? Will more decentralized, underground, F the bank stuff come around? Maybe. But the original narrative for Bitcoin is fully lost at this point. I don't think anybody knows what Bitcoin is anymore. And that's a concern for me for Bitcoin being around in the last 7 years, is to watch what it was and then watch it morph and then watch those morphs not be true and then watch the new people who gained the huge influence titles of 2021, all the new influencers that are here, them all being like, JP Morgan is good, BlackRock is good. The 2017-18 crew would never believe that, ever. So the narrative of Bitcoin is just massively changed. But will it turn back around if it rejects here, right? What if, I mean, dude, the best thing for everybody is if this thing just keeps going and we're all going to go to the moon. I'm going to be called an idiot, and that's fine. But if this thing turns around, you tell me, man. You tell me if it's going to go to a new all-time high. If this is the only existence of Bitcoin, and every bull run for Bitcoin is with very important periods of the stock market, right? Like will it, is it going to do 4-year cycles? I don't say I really doubt it. I just don't believe it. I don't believe it will. And that is not just my opinion. Like you have to be like, when you have an opinion, you have to be able to say, well, what does the data suggest? Like the data suggests that if the stock market turns around and heads to the downside, how is Bitcoin going to go off into all-time highs, right? Like, or how is Bitcoin going to recover, right? Come on, load. Right, the tie together is there, and so could it take 10 years? Maybe. Could it take 10 years? It totally could. If it follows, if it does like what Ethereum did in 2018, I mean, it could take years to get all the way down to the lows, and then it could take many years for it to turn back up. I mean, that's what people don't expect. Like they're just very accustomed to Bitcoin 4-year cycles, block reward halvings, but the data totally suggests it's totally tied to the stock market. It happens. The stock market just so happens to have been going on these 4-year cycles, these multi-year consolidations, the breakouts, they go to new highs, and Bitcoin tags along with it. And so instead of the one narrative, and that's what people don't know, is prior to 2020, the idea that Bitcoin was tied to the stock market was considered voodoo. It was nonsense, like not accepted, an unacceptable phenomenon to believe it, because it's its own asset class. It is a hedge against everything. When the stock market falls apart, Bitcoin rises from the ashes and it's glorious. And so to sit there and show the data and prove it, it's totally tied to the stock market. The 4-year block reward halving narrative is totally made up, that it is the influencer on Bitcoin's new all-time highs, and that every bull run that has happened for Bitcoin is occurring within 56 days of the Dow Jones Industrial Average breaking out into an all-time high. So it's that grasping onto the idea that the stock market is the influential factor. And if the stock market slips into something different, and if it does have a problem up in here, do you think Bitcoin's going into an all-time high? It would be an event that Bitcoin has not gone through to see a trend change happen throughout the stock market. And every correction suggests that Bitcoin goes into a bear market with it. It doesn't just suggest it, it does happen. So if it flips around and turns around and heads in this direction, will Bitcoin keep going in this direction? There's no data to suggest it would, right? And so I think it would just depend on how long does it take for the stock market to turn around and to recover. And if we can find some confluence on a bottom coming in for the stock market, and reality is if Bitcoin got down to $2,000 or $3,000, that would probably be like the mark of it. Like, okay, we have washed away all the nonsense. And I get it. That number, it sounds stupid. It sounds crazy. It sounds silly to think Bitcoin could potentially go down that low. But it's just to remember that we have absolutely seen things like that in this market. We even saw that happen over there in Netflix. And it's really just the same. The Bitcoin's conceptually has done the exact same thing all throughout Ethereum. And it's like, we're just like right in here. So we have to prove more than this for Bitcoin. But you could see how long this could take to drag out and how long things could be. Imagine if you're only like right here for Bitcoin right now. There's a long path ahead. I don't cheer for that. I don't want that. I know people would love to paint it as me being the doomer. It's not what I want. It's just the things that I see and the concerns that I have when you have the stock market right here. A lot of people don't care about this. They don't pay attention to this, but we've obviously seen when we don't pay attention to it, what happens. We all scream for 100K. We all excited. None of this matters. There's this dude with a rainbow model. I trust rainbows more than anything. That didn't matter. And so we just have to pay attention to these things. And if the trend changes in the stock market, and if the trend changes in the NASDAQ 100 technology sector, it could be a long time. It could be a long time for Bitcoin. Luke, gifted a BCB membership. Brother, thank you. James V. Hey, I need the crystal ball. With Bitcoin no all-time high, how will the alts react? That's what we're trying to watch and try to understand happening right in here right now, right? If we are in distribution, if we're in something like this, we look for similar signs to happen. If this thing just goes kerplunk like this, altcoins are probably going to kerplunk with it. It's just the reality of it. If it can find some types of supports and start creating a real distribution structure, something like this in here, we can watch for elements of similarities to appear of what we see in Euphoria Tops, where Bitcoin is in distribution. There's not a whole lot of juice left in it, but there's still euphoria in markets, right? And so like right now we have to say to ourselves, is there any possibility that there could be any euphoria in markets, right? Like if Bitcoin's topped, if it's dead, is there still any chance of euphoria happening in the markets? I think if you saw the price go back up, you'd immediately see mocking of anybody bearish. But at the same time, are there other elements elsewhere to suggest that there could still be euphoria and high risk taking in markets? And it's right there. It's just seeing these all-time highs happening in the stock market that there still could be that. My idea, my thesis of it all happening is to watch to see if we have one of these style of distributions happening in here. And if you see that altcoin market continuing to march higher, especially into a moment like this, where not much happens for Bitcoin, but the altcoins continue, and then we go back into a retracement, there's one more continued march up. Great. You know what? Time to pull the plug. That's it. But my theory has been all this time, all we're going to get is this up in here. Now it's time to see that the altcoins either put up or shut up and lights out, or can we have euphoria? And so the element to look around and say, can there be any euphoria anywhere? It's really to look over there at the stock market and see there's euphoria in the stock market right now. So could we have that translate over here? Yes, but I don't think it's going to translate into this guy. It would translate over into the altcoin aspect of the market. Wadapak, I'm grateful for you. Thank you, sir, for your wisdom. Well, thank you, sir. Very kind. Stephen Edinburgh gifted 5 BCB memberships. Stephen, thank you, man. If your name flipped green, shout out thanks to Stephen. And somebody else gifted one earlier. Luke, too. Jeff. I vote someone makes a special frog graphic that can be played when XRP new all-time high, even if not on a Wednesday. Thoughts on when it could happen? Oh, that's a when moon question. That was a long-tailed when moon question. I don't know when. There's something. If that day ever comes, don't worry. There's something prepared. Daniel T. Used to talk about Max Payne before the jump. This feels like it. Yeah, I saw a poll conducted over there on Twitter. I don't know if there's Max Payne in Bitcoin. Definitely over like an XRP and an altcoin. So I saw a poll conducted. The highest response with over 1,000 responses was frustrated, which also means anger, right? Irritation, impatience. It's all those things go into that same bucket. Those are good things. Larry, good morning, BCB. Grayscale still has over 500,000 Bitcoin left, which could take months to sell. If all this Grayscale Bitcoin dumping changing your outlook for Ethereum and alts to run to all-time high, thanks. I don't care about the narrative of Grayscale. Like, how are you going to quantify that, right? That's the narrative that Bitcoiners have resorted to because they got rejected where we were supposed to get rejected. Because Grayscale Bitcoin Trust pinpoint hits the 702 retracement and then it rejects. That's where they look to, right? No, it's not me saying that we were going to have billions of dollars of inflows and that Bitcoin was going to go to the moon because of this narrative. It's because Grayscale. We got to find a common enemy to blame instead of focusing on this. You spend years talking about getting back here. How many times did we talk about it in here when I was like, hey, I'm going to focus on this thing. I'm going to focus on this guy right here. That's where I think we'll see Bitcoin. I'm sure you can go find markets in the mornings. You can go find videos, find things. But like, I'm focusing on this guy right in here. Now, Grayscale, right? So the Grayscale narrative just doesn't have any meaning to me. It just doesn't mean any. Yeah, I just don't care. You know what I mean? How am I going to translate that into quantifiable anything? And I'm not trying to be a jerk. It's just that's consistent jerkness for me to try to find a narrative. I find it more so that narratives show up when they're supposed to show up rather than narrative being causation. You know what I mean? Grumpy Old Man says, hey, BCB, can you look at where the ADA market cap was stopped at in December of 2023? When you put the fibs on the 2017 high, you couldn't make this stuff up. Let's see. Whoa, wrong one. Ah, look at that. Yeah. I see what you're saying right there, right? That's funny. Yeah. Again, I still think the craziest one, narrative-wise, right now, my favorite one to say, come on, is GBTC. That one. That happened. Retail piled in, poured in, YOLO bot, people screaming that, what company was it that they couldn't get their money transferred? They couldn't, who was it? What asset company wouldn't let them buy the Grayscale Bitcoin ETFs. And people are like, I'm transferring all my money out and I'm putting it into other ones so I can YOLO long my whole life savings. Vanguard. Yeah. Vanguard's like, no, we're not going to let you destroy yourself. And they're like, I want to destroy my entire life savings that I've let you manage because I've decided I'm now going to be the manager of it. And I'm going to YOLO long the ETF news with my whole life savings. And Vanguard's like, no, you're not. And they're like, fine, I will do it with someone who will let me. Let me transfer it over and give all my money to JP Morgan and have them sell me their Bitcoin. This is crazy. Right? That is nuts to me. Like, I would not be surprised if, like, JP Morgan being the authorized participant for BlackRock, right? For all the Bitcoin ETF lovers out there, what does that mean for them to be the authorized participant, right? Does that mean they have to source the Bitcoin for BlackRock? Where are they sourcing it from? Well, I know we talked trash about JP Morgan for 15 years, but they're our friends now. They're going to come to the spot market and load up and pump our bags. They definitely didn't buy down here and are dumping it via the ETF on us right now, right? Like, that's where my mind goes. Like, my mind does not go to the immediate, like, bull narrative when it comes to JP Morgan or BlackRock. It goes to, all right, how are they going to screw us? That's what I always think. So how do I position myself on their side? Because they're not going to lose. They're going to win. How are they winning? They're probably trying to win by distributing their Bitcoin via the ETF onto retail. Hi, I just got a lot of thumbs down on my video. I don't know if that happened. I don't know if I did. But if you could, please like the video. Live stream. All right, I'm moving on. When I came walking into the office, my wife handed me a nice coffee, which was very kind of her. And then she says, all right, be spicy. And I go, I always try not to be. And she goes, we love it. I'm like, no, I really try not to be. Keshav Lakshman. Hey, BCB, if there was no SEC lawsuit and XRP made an all-time high in 2021, the percent drawdown from that high to the recent low is similar to that of the previous cycle. Well, I don't agree with that. I mean, because that's just not the case, right? That's just not what happened. What is more similar is the drawdown on here, or is XRP, right? What is more similar is the drawdown here, right? You have the first run, you have like a 95% crash, right? That's what you have in here. You have like a 95% crash. You have a retrace, and then you pull back 85%. You have a retrace, and then you pull back 85%, and then long accumulation and long accumulation. Those are more similar. I mean, if we made crazy, and I can't play with bottoms in, because if we went way up here, I mean, I get what you're saying. It's just hard for me to do anything with that. I gotta see what's the real numbers on the charts, you know. But I mean, it's a cool observation. FML, belated birthday. Also, why would XRP pump when market down? Well, what's happened is the market has gone up, right? And then if it stalls out, these are the times where these things happen, right? It's always historically like this. Big moves up in Bitcoin, prices stall out, then XRP goes. That's how each move has happened for XRP and for the altcoin market. And we've already seen lots of altcoins even leading the way. We've had several 10Xers, several 5Xers already. Logan says, hey, thanks for your education on sentiment and fractals. I sold the top of CLSK Bitcoin miner after buying at $2 to $5. It was mimicking the ADA top, and it looks like it's at support here where ADA bottomed. Well, dude, congrats, man. It always feels good, and it always feels bad to do it. It always, when you're doing it right, and this is the hard truth, when you're doing it right, it always feels bad. When you're buying, if it feels bad, probably doing it right. If you're selling and it feels bad, you're probably doing it right. When you're running with the herd and you're buying because everybody else is buying, you're running with the herd, you're selling because everybody else is selling. It's just a constant wrong footing game. You never pans out when you are searching for confirmation bias amongst your peers and everybody else. It really takes diving into this stuff yourself, and it really takes going against the herd and against that. Going against the herd here, this is nothing new here on this channel. I get called all kinds of names every time we do it. And that's one thing that's different about my channel. If you haven't noticed, I'm constantly trying to catch reversal points. And reversal points are difficult, right? So a lot of times people just be like, oh, we're trending, go up, which not many people could even catch the trending behavior in here for the upward action. It's just because we got up here, everybody's like, bye. But always on here, right? And I've been hated many times when the laser eyes and diamond hands, that thing went on for 4 months, 3 months of hating me. And then when we're down here, this goes on for over 2 months. We'll set a new all-time high, but just not by much. We go set the new all-time high. Okay, that's the end of it. And hated. We're going to 100K, and then this one just lasted forever. Oh my gosh! So it will always feel bad. And I think I try to set that example too by just coming onto the YouTube and being ruthless on it. And you get to even see it for yourself. The attacks I take from the masses, and you will never experience that. Well, I mean, unless you become like a YouTuber or something, or a big personality on Twitter or something like that, you won't have to go through that. But you will see how that is what it's like. You get to see how everybody else is behaving, and a lot of times your behavior has to be different than what everybody else's is. Philip Man gifted a BCB membership. Brother, thank you very much. We got 1,000 likes, guys. Let's go. DJ, I love the unconventionality in your analysis. Really, it's not unconventional, but the crypto maxis it is. It's true technical analysis, in my opinion. This is what's difficult to understand, is that markets tend to at least retrace. It just tends to at least happen. This was brutal because it just took forever for this retracement to finally come in, right? To at least get close to, we've hit like a technical retrace that could be good enough for Bitcoin. And that's hard to wrap your head around. That could be all that there is there for Bitcoin. But down here in the depths, it was just never going to come, right? It was never going to happen. We were never going to get it. And then what always happens is when we get back to them, we watch for certain things. And I'm certain we could find it in past videos. Just I do so many videos. I do so many live streams. Good God, trying to find where that could be. To just talk about what sentiment would be like getting back to these levels, that retail will buy it, retail will chastise bears, retail will attack anybody who is bearish at that point because they will all be YOLO longing at that time. And so there becomes confirmation bias. They seek out information that's suitable to their bias because they've now capitulated on the idea of lower prices, and now they're buying the higher prices. And so you look for like events to happen and like technical things to occur, and we eventually get narratives at the exact same time. You get the confluence of Grayscale Bitcoin Trust hitting it at the same time of the 702, and the confluence of the ETF event being the marking to actually hit the retracement level. So those are just things that happen at the same time, and not that the events truly matter, but they sure are very interesting, right? The magical unicorn fairy dust, the puppet masters pulling the puppet strings, the god, the simulation. Those are the things that I'm referring to when I say that things happen when they're supposed to happen on charts. You've all heard, show me a chart and I'll tell you the news. That's my kind of version of it, right? That events tend to happen when they're supposed to happen. And it took getting there. It took getting to that retracement in Bitcoin for that event to happen for there. So... Black Setsu says, "Hey BCB, what are your thoughts on Coin? Seems to have done a 618 retracement in 2021. If you draw the fibs from the 2018 high, I get asked about Coin often because Coin's been up. I don't have any true real thoughts on Coin. It's getting back to, this is from last week. I think this is the level where a lot of the market has stopped. So, like for example, this is like the area where Bitcoin has stopped. Lots of stuff has stopped. It's been just an absolute rampager." Right. So this is why the timing in the market right now is different, price behavior wise. People are just used to being gloom and doomers, and because some assets are still struggling to get off the ground yet. But you see things like this happening. Like these are reversal moves, right? These are reversals happening in here, but you're getting back to struggle levels happening in here. This is where we just saw Bitcoin top. This is where we've seen Chainlink struggle. All these assets have struggled here in these April levels right in here. So that's where you're at. The thing about Coin, right? Decentralized storage, kind of like Filecoin, decentralized storage. But the problem with Coin, even though I own it because I've had it for a long time, just locked away and difficult to get to, it's essentially abandoned, right? So if it pumps as like a meme coin or something like that, an OG coin or something like that, great. But from a technical perspective, it's reaching a level that could be a run out of juice, or else it would have to be some entirely new thing that comes out for Coin to give it any type of value or development value, because there's no development on this thing. Nothing. It would just have to essentially gain meme status and OG coin meme stuff, right? And that's not really an investment thesis at all. But, look at that. Big run. Big run. What percentage is that? From 2 to, that's a good 300%, right? $350. So, all right, we are going to avoid meme coins though, or not meme coins, just altcoins, like individual altcoins. I know that sometimes when I pull one up, it triggers a bunch of people to do more. I'm just don't waste your money, guys. Ryan, I love your impressions of Jim Cramer telling Pompliano he's never selling his Bitcoin. Will you please do it for me? No, I don't do impressions on the spot for super chats. It's like a dance monkey. I don't do them on the spot. They got to be coming from passion. It's usually I'm in full blown spicy mode when I do it, but I don't do it on command. But that absolutely is a favorite one. Somebody just go find his interview. We need to pull it. Somebody pull it, post it on X, and then tag me in it. It's going to be on Anthony Pompliano's YouTube channel. I mean, you could probably just Google it to find it. Anthony Pompliano, Jim Cramer. Watch the whole episode. It's like an hour long, and then find wherever he says it. I'm never selling. All right, JP Smith. How do you feel trading breakouts? I don't understand how some succeed with this. It feels like a FOMO trade. Well, it's an in and out, really fast trade. Right? You don't do a trade and breakout trade and become long-term holder. Right? Let it pump, let it run out of juice. When you start to see signs of bearish divergence, you cut it. So it's just quick. So in my position, just where for me, it's been they swing trades, long-term time frame trades. This is how I play. Lots of people operate on different time frames. So people yell at me because, they probably FOMO bought in here. They're like, we're going up really quick, and I'm long-termer, right? Like I can hold on to something for years, and then I got a few 100% out of it. Time to let go of it, and operate on a different timetable than everybody. I personally do not enjoy quick day trading. It's just not for me. I've done it. And with this market being 24/7, you better have a very serious, methodical process that you consistently follow, where you do not deviate away from it in any way. If you deviate away from it in any way, you'll find yourself with sleepless nights. So for me, I have found the method I prefer. I can just go years and hundreds of percents. Sometimes when you're really lucky, sometimes you get a couple thousand. But for quick day trades, it's not my cup of tea. So it's all still the same stuff. It's all still the same technical analysis, but zoomed way out, rather than be focusing on 15-minute charts, hourly charts, And a lot of degens in this space are absolutely living in the 1 minute chart. They're living in the 5 minute chart. They're not sleeping at night. They are drinking coffee nonstop. I just don't. I don't know. I don't even think it's my age. I was just saying I'm just too old for that. And it's not that. I've done it enough. I've done it enough to know it's not worth it. And then the lower the time frame you go, the more noise there is. How much noise was there to get back to a 618 retracement? Just so much noise along the way to get back to the 618 retracement. So I don't really play around with a lot of the smaller time frames. So all right. Oh, I just got we'll check this out. I'll see what he says because I don't want to say anything wrong. Okay. XP Market says that SIA is being developed quite actively. I'm going to read your message, even though you did not give me permission to. He says, SIA is being developed quite actively, and the recent price increase may have to do with the fact that they've launched their core product. The SIA Foundation, a nonprofit organization to benefit distributed storage. And okay, I'll have to go through all of that. I don't know. I'll follow up with him on that to see if that's true. If so, well, then I'm not mad about my old SIA coins, but we'll see. Otherwise, we'll keep our eyes on everything. Let's see how the stock market is doing as the day keeps shifting on in here. How's the NDXTs and the all-time highs? Dow Jones up 230 points, NASDAQ 60 points. Dow, where you at? Dow Jones 2.87. Oh, no. Let's get it right on the button, huh? I'll line these up better for tomorrow's stream to get real accurate. 2.9% for the Dow Jones until a 4.236 extension. Remember, this has been a nearly 500% rise for that to happen. This has been an over 2,000% rise for the NASDAQ to get up in here. So is there potential for euphoria in these markets? You better believe it. Euphoria comes at peaks. Chastise the bears, bulls. We can never lose. We can only win. And these types of elements do create for a lot of excitement in markets. So we'll keep our eyes on it. We'll see if Bitcoin can hold some supports. We'll see if XRP can regain those closes there for the end of the day. And market cap still sits up there, but that the price chart is starting to slip in there currently right now. Has held over 54.2 every day. We'll see if Bitcoin can catch itself a bounce today, if anything can show up while the stock market is rampaging today. Crypto, though, still under the struggle. Let's see how Coinbase is doing. Is Coinbase still up there? Coinbase up over 3.7%. So something's up. Something's up in there. We'll see how the day ends up closing. But killer day for the stock market. Metals taking a hurt. Looks like they're bouncing back just a little bit. But all right, there we go. We'll check in on it again tomorrow, you guys. We just crossed over the 1 hour time frame. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in today. Of course, if you're looking for something to do, you get more videos from me, charts, all that good stuff, historical behavior of the market, learning about CoinTrader Pro. We had a question about that, finding market caps, teach you guys about that stuff in there, all about different types of effective tools, patterns, Wyckoff accumulation, Elliott wave theory, and the historical behavior of the cryptocurrency market. You can check all this out over here on bcbacker.com. Of course, I do write a newsletter, put it out twice a month in there. All over here on blockchainbacker.substack.com. If you haven't checked out the information there on developer data when it comes to these altcoins and those cryptos, that's been a very popular series that we just completed last month. Check that out on blockchainbacker.substack.com. Otherwise, guys, see if we can catch some support today. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this live stream and give it a thumbs up. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice, and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.